This is an M4A4 Sherman in the colours of a vehicle that was used by the Chinese-American 1st Provisional Tank Group, of which was a joint force operated during World War II in the Chinese-Burma-India theatre. The first PTG supported the Allies' effort to reopen a land route through Burma, which at the time was occupied by the Japanese, by securing and rebuilding the Lido-Burma Road, and it was in April of 1944 that this company received a platoon of 6 M4A4 Shermans, some of which carried special markings, as can be seen on this vehicle in War Thunder. The vehicle is of course a premium and is available for purchase on the Gaijin store for €19.99. Alongside the M4A4 itself, you will also receive 1000 golden eagles and 15 days of premium account time. The vehicle itself is a tier 2 at a BR of 3.7 with a crew of 5. Your main armament will be a 75mm M3 cannon with the availability to use either AP, APC-BC, HE or smoke rounds. Personally, I use the APC-BC round as my primary, which is not only the highest penning shell with 103mm of best effective pen, but also contains 65 grams of explosive mass with a ballistic cap, which really can just rip through an enemy tank quite nicely. The gun has a base reload of 5.62 seconds and a maxed out crew reload of 5 seconds. Certainly not too bad of a reload when compared to similar guns at this BR, such as the German L43, which has a 6.79 second reload, and the Russian L11, which has an 8.17 second reload. The gun has 360 degrees of horizontal rotation at a speed of 16.8 degrees per second, and then -10 and +25 degrees of vertical guidance. The M4A4 also employs the use of a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun and a turret-mounted 50 caliber machine gun. In terms of armor, the front of the vehicle is protected by an angled piece of 50.8mm thick rolled homogeneous armor. This can bounce and stop some shots, but on the whole this only gives a limited amount of protection. The front of the turret is a bit heavier, with armor of up to 88.9mm in places, but again, this is not any level of armor that you should solely rely on. Overall, the armor provides some additional survivability, but is not something you can constantly rely on. After all, this is only a medium tank. Finally, getting into the mobility of the M4. By no means is this tank a speed demon, but with a top speed of 23.6 miles an hour, it is fast enough to get you around whichever map you are playing on with relative ease. And with a weight of 30.6 tons and an engine that produces 400 horsepower, the vehicle has a power to weight ratio of roughly 13 horsepower per ton. So with all that said, let's now go take a look at the M4A4 in some games. Now of course, this vehicle can be played in a few game modes, of course ground, RB and AB, and then also simulator battles, but in this video we're going to be looking at realistic battles. So our first game is on the map Tunisia, and it's going to be focused around the A point, which is positioned in a much more urban area of the map when compared to, well, the rest of the map. And luckily for me, I am able to get into that point first to capture it for my team before the enemy can get there. After that, I decide to take up a position where I can defend, and I first off come across a Stu 42. I shoot him, hit a bad area and it bounces, but luckily my second shot kills him and his shot doesn't do any damage to me thanks to the angling of that upper frontal plate. Next up we have a Panzer IV who is being a bit iffy. He was hiding for quite a while and it took a while for me to bait him out, and my first shot, yeah, it hits a bad bit on the turret front and doesn't really kill him, but luckily he misses, and I know that I have a faster reload than him, so I take the opportunity to pull forward, pump a shot into the front of his chassis, and you know, that ballistic cap on the APC-BC shell, as I said earlier, it really does do nice at just ripping through enemy tanks, and it did do it with that Panzer IV, and will now do it with another Panzer IV. This guy sneaks up behind me, and he sets me on fire, but I can still shoot, so I fire through this bus that's behind me, straight into the angled corner of his chassis, goes in and just kills the entire crew. Of course I was hit there, so I need to stop the fire, repair the vehicle, and then I decide to also use crew replenishment to get back one of my dead crew members. Once I've done that, I move back out of the A point after capturing it yet again, and come across a little baby SPAA, who I kind of feel bad for. He couldn't really do anything, and yeah, he just got completely destroyed. And next up, yeah, there's a lot of smoke. Where's the enemy? And oh god, there's a Puma right there. So I knock out the engine. He ain't going to run anywhere now. And he is sort of beginning to turn his gun towards me. So I fire a shot into the turret. And yeah, I knock out the driver by the looks of it, which is a bit of a strange round trajectory there. But then a second shot into the turret, you know, just knocks out the remainder of the crew. That's him dead. Then the enemy once again start capturing the A point. They do not want to give up. And it's a little Italian armored car. I kill him, move back into the point to attempt to start capturing, and I am going to die fairly soon, but not before I get another kill. As I'm driving past this alleyway, I see a German SPAA, and yeah, take him out, little flak boy dead, and then I begin to drive off thinking, hey, I've killed all the enemies, and I get killed by a Japanese SPG. That's me, bye-bye, and overall it was a decent game. 2 base captures and 7 kills, not too bad. Now that game featured mostly close range engagements. This game on Sinai is very much the opposite, mostly long range engagements, starting off with a Marder 3. Now this guy is driving along in the distance, fire off a shot, and I am just shy of hitting him, so I readjust my aim, fire another one, and get a nice hit into the lower side of the hull, knocking out the remaining crew members in his vehicle, giving me my first kill. Moving forward, I then come across a German Churchill just down in front of me on the lower ground, fire a shot into the side of his hull, luckily hitting the exact positioning of his ammo rack, which appears to be full, and that goes up like a tree and just destroys the entire crew. After that, I move just to behind this rock so I have some cover, protecting the lower portion of my chassis, before scouting around trying to find any additional enemies. And it looks like I have found someone, an enemy tank off by those rocks in the distance near the B point. And there we go, loader out. He continues to fire at me. I fire another shot, and that is all it takes. He dropped the smoke, but it was just a bit too late. And again, I hit the ammunition, and by the looks of it, it missed the ammo, but the ballistic cap went off, and that dealt with the remainder of the crew. As you saw there, a perfect example of the ballistic cap. I hit the engine section, and the fragments from the cap just go through, set off the ammo, that's him dead. That's another kill, and that was a Marder 3. And, you know, after that, there's a few other enemies looking at me, and yeah, unlucky Panzer IV F2, same thing happened there. The thing with the ballistic cap is it goes in, it just explodes off, and there's so many fragments that it's highly likely one of them will hit some ammunition, and it's fairly likely, depending on how much ammo they're carrying and what type of ammo, it's likely that that ammo will go up. Not only does this round have fairly good explosive properties, but also long-range firing is fairly easy. You'll notice in the scope that the range bars aren't too far apart, which I would say is a big benefit for new players. At least some of the newer players I know, they do say that sniping at longer ranges is kind of a tricky thing to get the hang of. With this round, you know, the range bars are quite close together. It's not too difficult to get used to the properties of the round for sniping. So, as you would have seen in the background though, I did take out a few enemies who were trying to take the B point. After that, I then decide to go back towards the A point, which has actually just been uncapped by the enemy, and I come across a Stug, who decides to drop some smoke, and yeah, I can't see where he is, so I'm waiting for him to pop out. There's another friendly vehicle driving up towards the point, and there he is, and boom, one shot to the side, and that is that Stug taken out. Moving on though towards the point yet again. The enemy are currently not capturing the point, but then I see someone driving in, and it is another Stug. So he dies, he gets killed by a friendly, and I capture the point. And that's more or less it for this game, to be honest. Not much else happens. I drive around, and yeah, that's pretty much it. A decent game overall. I think it did well to demonstrate the round's capabilities especially. The APC-BC round is really my favourite one on this tank. As I said, not only does it have good explosive properties, but at longer ranges it can be fairly easy to use, especially for newer players. and not to mention as well 103mm of pen. It is also the highest penning round on this vehicle, so I wouldn't say there's actually any reason not to use this round. It might also be worth taking a few smoke rounds, as if your vehicle is damaged you could maybe drop a few of them just to give yourself some cover, although for me personally I don't bother taking any of the smokes. Well anyway, there we go, the M4A4 of the first PTG, a vehicle that I have actually very much enjoyed playing over the past few weeks. Lots of very nice games, and you know, the early Sherman models in general are very nice tanks to play. I would dare say they are decently balanced, and they allow veteran players to do very well and new players to have a fairly smooth learning curve, as the armor, it adds a decent amount of survivability, the gun is quite effective without being too overpowered, and the mobility is, I would say, more or less average. Of course, the paint scheme also really is a cherry on top for this vehicle. Although in the Chinese tech tree there is actually a standard M4A4 model, although the one major difference being that that does not have the roof mounted 50 cal, which in some cases could be used to shoot at aircraft. Anyway though, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please consider dropping a like, that would be very much appreciated, and if you want to see more reviews like this, please consider subscribing to the channel, and I shall have more new content on the way soon. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.